Hello everyone. So in this video, we'll write equations for these given word equations. So as per the problem, define suitable variables for each situation and write an equation. So we are given the word equations for these different situations and we have to convert these word equations into algebraic equations using suitable variables. So let's start with part A. So in part A, we are given that Caroline has a day job and an evening job, and she works a total of 40 hours per week. So 40 represents the sum of the number of hours she works in the day job and the evening job per week. So we'll have to define a variable for the number of hours she works in a day job per week and the number of hours she works in her evening job per week. So we'll have to write let statements for these variables. So our first let statement can be let x represent the number of hours in day job per week and let y represent the number of hours in evening job per week. Now the sum of these hours should be equal to 40 because that's the total per week. So our equation is x plus y equals 40. So this should be the final answer for part A. So now we can analyze part B. So in part B, we are given that Caroline earns $15 per hour at her day job and $11 per hour at her evening job. And last week, she earned $540. So now we'll have to use variables for the number of hours she worked in her day job and the evening job last week because we are given that the total amount of money she earned last week is 540. So our first let statement will be let x represent the number of hours in day job last week, and then let y represent the number of hours in evening job last week. We have to write an equation. Now if she worked x hours in day job last week, that means the total amount of money she'll make in those x hours is 15x because she earned $15 per hour. And then in her evening job, she would earn 11y because $11 is what she earns per hour. And then the total of these two amounts should be equal to 540 because that's the total amount of money she earned last week. So this should be the final answer for part B. Now we can analyze part C. Now as per part C, Justin earns $500 per week plus 6% commission selling cars. Now here we are given that Justin earns in two ways. So one is the $500 that he gets every week and then he gets 6% commission selling cars. Now the 6% is based on the sales he does in that week. So here we'll have to use let statement for variables that represent sales he does in a week and the total amount of money he earns. So here we can use let x represent Justin's weekly sales, and then the other let statement can be let r represent Justin's weekly earnings, because here we are finding out what is the total amount of money he earns. So our equation will be r equals, he will earn $500, so that's the fixed amount that he earns, plus the 6% of the x value, his weekly sales. So it will be 0.06 x. So we convert the percentage to decimal form by dividing by 100. So 6 divided by 100 is 0.06. So now we can analyze part D. So in part D, we are given that Justin is offered a new job that would pay $800 per week plus 4% commission. Now in this case, we'll have to use a variable for total amount of sales he makes. So same kind of situation, and his total earnings in that new job. So our first let statement will be let X represent Justin's weekly sales, and then let Y represent, or sorry, we can do let E represent Justin's weekly pay. So now we can write the equation using these variables. So I'll write it here on the side. So since E represents his weekly pay, so it will be E equals, he will get $800 per week, and that's his fixed amount, plus he will also earn 4% on his weekly sales, and we'll have to convert the percentage to decimal, so that will be 0.04x. So that's the equation that represents Justin's weekly earnings in that new job. So we are done with part D, and now we can do part E. So in part E, we are given that a piggy bank contains $5.25 in nickel and dimes. Now as you may know that nickel represents 5 cents and dime represents 10 cents. Now we don't know how many nickels and dimes are in there. So first we'll have to write a let statement to define the variables for the number of nickels and dimes in the piggy bank. So our first let statement will be let X represent the number of nickels, and let Y represent the number of dimes. Now we can use these variables to write our equation. So the total amount of money is $5.25, and as I just mentioned, so nickels is 5 cents or $0.05. So there's a very important concept you need to understand about nickels. Now dimes are 10 cents, and 10 cents in dollars will be 0.10. Because we have to divide the cents by 100 to convert them into dollars. The total amount is given to us in dollars, so that's why we should convert these cents amounts to dollars. So now we can write our equation, and our equation will be 0.05x. So that's the total value of all the nickels in the piggy bank, plus 0.10y. So that's the total value of all the dimes in the piggy bank, and the sum of these two values should be equal to 5.25. So that's the total amount of money in the piggy bank. So this should be the equation for part E. So I hope you'll find this video useful. Please share it, like it, and subscribe to Homework Help. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye.